So, we're doing this again. Another day, another batch of folks realizing that voting based on vibes, podcast appearances, and owning the libs might not have been the master strategy they thought it was. We've got foreign aid outrage, Pentagon censorship, tech billionaires playing puppeteer, comedians doing damage control, and parents watching special education funding get gutted in real time. And the common thread? A whole lot of people who screamed freedom while voting for the exact opposite. Look, I'm not here to gloat, okay, maybe a little. But mostly, I'm here to break down what actually happened, why it matters, and what it means for the rest of us, stuck cleaning up this mess. Because when you vote for chaos, you don't get to act surprised when things get chaotic. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's break it down.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that.
So do you guys think that any of our hard-earned taxpayer funds should go to any of those demands? Let me know in the comment section. If you guys enjoy videos like this, please give me a follow. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section. And make sure you guys repost this video to help it get out there. Take care.
All right. So, foreign aid outrage. Classic playbook. They list out these tiny budget items, $24 million here, $13 million there, and act like that's why your paycheck isn't stretching far enough. It's not. Here's the thing. The entire U.S. foreign aid budget is less than 1% of federal spending. 1%. Meanwhile, we spend over $800 billion on defense. But sure, let's panic about locust prevention in Africa. And I love how they frame it. Your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Like, yeah, my $47 contribution to the Honduras climate program is really breaking the bank. But here's what they're not telling you. Foreign aid isn't charity. It's investment. Stability abroad means fewer refugees, fewer conflicts we get dragged into, and more trading partners. It's cheaper to prevent problems than to fix them later. And the wasteful spending narrative? It's distraction. They want you mad about millions so you don't notice the billions going to corporate subsidies, tax cuts for billionaires, and Pentagon contracts that somehow always go over budget. So yeah, be mad about spending. Just be mad about the right things.
The Department of War is going to war against a free and fair press covering the Pentagon. By 5 p.m. today, Tuesday, October 14th, any news media outlet that wants to cover the Pentagon and have credentials has to sign a 17-page document with all sorts of new rules and restrictions, including this one that says Department of War information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it is released, even if it is unclassified. That's saying that nobody in the news media can report anything on the Pentagon unless the Pentagon has signed off on it. That's not what journalism is. As of now, no major news outlet has agreed to these restrictive rules. Not CNN, not the New York Times, not the Washington Post, not the Atlantic, even conservative outlets like Fox, where Hegseth used to be a weekend co-host, and Newsmax and the Washington Times, even they have balked. As of now, the only media outlet that's agreed to these rules and restrictions is OANN, a very conservative site. Why is Hegseth so afraid of media scrutiny of this government department that is funded by up to $1 trillion of your taxpayer dollars every year? When media outlets have posted their opposition and statements that they are not going to sign this document on social media, Hegseth has responded with a waving goodbye emoji. But the big question remains, what is he afraid of news media reporting on? What is he afraid of people finding out about this $1 trillion agency that you pay for?
Oh, this is wild. So the Pentagon, the folks managing $1 trillion of taxpayer money, now wants to control what journalists can report about them. And the only outlet that signed on? OANN. That should tell you everything. This isn't about national security. If it was, we already have classification systems for that. This is about controlling the narrative, because here's what happens when you restrict press access. Corruption thrives, waste multiplies, accountability disappears, and Hegseth responding with a waving emoji when outlets refuse to sign? That's not confidence. That's someone who knows they can't defend this policy on the merits, so they're playing to the base instead. The military-industrial complex doesn't need less oversight, it needs more. We spend more on defense than the next 10 countries combined, and somehow still have readiness issues, crumbling bases, and veterans waiting months for care. So yeah, when they try to silence the press, ask yourself, what are they hiding? And more importantly, whose money are they hiding it with?
Sound conspiratorial, so let me explain why it's not. The fact that millions of us were forced to watch a violent political assassination across every major social media platform last week was an intentional choice by these platforms, and they have a reason that they wanted you to see it. I work in politics, and I've spent years trying to regulate big tech companies with a special focus on content moderation, so let me explain to you exactly how I know that they wanted you to see this. First, we have to go back to 2019, after the Christchurch massacre was live streamed on Facebook. People were rightfully horrified to see that kind of violence on their Facebook feed, and so the campaign for the GIF-CT was born, known as the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism. This was a PR nightmare for these social media companies, so the pressure campaign worked, and they all signed on to be members of the GIF-CT. One agreement to be part of the GIF-CT is that they all have to share data on videos and images that have been labeled to be violent or to violate community guidelines. So, if a violent video gets flagged on Twitter, it should automatically get flagged and taken down from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. This has been the case since 2019, and overall, people have been seeing far fewer violent videos across their general timelines. It's also key to note that when a video is flagged on the GIF-CT database, it's supposed to come down off these other platforms automatically, so if it doesn't, someone had to intervene. The graphic video of Charlie Kirk getting assassinated meets all of the classifications for something that would be in the GIF-CT database and thus should have automatically come down off of all of these platforms. The fact that the video is still being widely circulated tells us that these tech companies wanted you to see it. That poses another big question, which is why. I have a theory, which is that all of these big tech companies are mostly run by unaccountable right-wing billionaires who only stand to benefit from stoking the flames of division in this country. Studies show that people engage with social media more when they're fighting and when they're angry, and politics is a really great way to get people riled up and engaged so that you can keep them on the platform, serve them advertisements, and keep making money. But we also know that these big tech billionaires are colluding with Donald Trump, and he has a concerted interest in everybody seeing this video, being horrified, and being able to use it as pretext to go after his political enemies, even if they had nothing to do with the assassination. While some may accuse me of being conspiratorial, anyone who thinks we weren't seeing this for a reason isn't paying attention.
The tech angle here is crucial. Social media platforms have protocols specifically designed to stop violent content from spreading. They built these systems after Christchurch, after massive public pressure, and they work when they want them to. But here's the reality. Engagement equals money, and nothing drives engagement like fear and outrage. So when these platforms let violent content circulate despite having automated systems to stop it, that's a choice. Someone had to override the system. Someone decided this was worth showing people. And look, I'm not saying there's some grand conspiracy. I'm saying the incentives are clear. Billionaire-owned platforms benefit from chaos. Traffic spikes, ad revenue increases, political influence grows. Meanwhile, we're all sitting here watching violence on our feeds, getting more divided, more angry, more engaged, which is exactly the point. You want to fix social media? Start by asking who profits from making you miserable. Then vote accordingly with your attention, your data, and your wallet.
I have now seen Andrew Schultz, Joe Rogan, and most recently Theo Vaughn say, I didn't vote for this. Man, you did. I know that folks will probably turn the other way when I say this because it's Theo Vaughn and they view him in a certain way. But this is intellectually dishonest. And to say this is basically admitting that you think your audience is stupid. You got shout outs on election night. Dana White applauded you, along with Aiden Ross, along with Joe Rogan. You invited him on your podcast and yucked it up. You have been given access that some would dream of getting. And what really irks me about all of this is the fact that we told you this would happen. There were too many signs that pointed to Donald Trump being the vehicle to Project 2025. When they say they wanted to launch the biggest mass deportation in history, you voted for it. And now Theo Vaughn is thinking that his rich privilege may not protect him because he has family members from Nicaragua. I believe her name is Francesca Ramsey, who says, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. My brother, they are eating your face. They are eating all of our faces. Some of us voluntarily wanted them to eat our faces, and the others fought tooth and nail for it to not happen. I am so sick and tired of all of these comedians saying, I didn't vote for this, I didn't vote for this. Maybe, though, it's on us as a society. Maybe it's on us for putting comedians on this pedestal when, in reality, like I think David Cross and George Carlin and Mark Maron, like, they do hold up a mirror to society, along with many others, of course. But when it comes to being politically savvy, maybe we shouldn't rely on the Flagrant crew. Maybe we shouldn't rely on Theo Vaughn to be the mastermind of politics and understanding geopolitics and understanding human rights cases, etc. Maybe it's on us because, after all, they are entertaining us through joke telling, some a lot better than others, some students of history, others willing to lick the boot to dictate.
Okay, the comedian situation deserves its own breakdown. These guys, Rogan, Schultz, Theo Vaughn, built massive platforms by being anti-establishment, and then they endorsed the establishment candidate, the actual former president, the literal definition of establishment, and now, I didn't vote for this. Brother, yes you did. You got shout-outs on election night. You had him on your podcast. You normalized him to millions of young men who trusted your judgment. You can't run interference for someone's campaign and then pretend you didn't know what you were signing up for. Here's the issue. When you have that kind of reach, you have responsibility. Not to be perfect, but to be honest. And saying I'm just a comedian after spending months boosting a political candidate, that's not honesty. That's cowardice. And look, maybe society puts too much weight on comedians' political takes. Fair point. But if you're gonna step into the arena, stand on what you said. Don't try to memory hole your involvement when things go sideways.
MAGA, I need your opinion. I know I don't ask for it often, but I need it. Trump accepts a plane from Qatar. Trump agrees to build golf course in Qatar. Trump agrees to build Qatari Air Force facility in United States. Are you cool with this? Do you see the issues? I need to know.
Oh man,
I'm an
the
immigrant
Qatar
in Chile.
thing.
I'm from the U.S.
So
I
Trump
moved
accepts a
there
plane from
6 years
Qatar,
ago,
builds a
and
golf
I
course
immigrated
there,
to Chile to,
agrees to host a
at the very
Qatari
core
Air
of it,
Force
have a
facility on
better
U.S.
life.
soil.
Yeah,
And the
maybe
same
my
people who
reasoning
spent 8
was to be
years
with
screaming
my
about Hunter
husband,
Biden's laptop
but to me,
are
that's
just cool with it.
immigrating to
This
have a
is
better
textbook
life.
conflict
so people
of
don't really
interest.
think twice about it. They're
Foreign
like, oh,
governments
yeah, she
giving
just wants
gifts
to
to
be
a
with her
sitting
husband.
president.
Makes
That's
sense.
not normal.
But people
That's not
don't
okay.
have that same empathy
That's the kind
for
of thing that
people
used to be
coming from Mexico,
bipartisan
South
outrage.
America, other
But here's what
countries
happened.
who are
Team
also in
loyalty
search of
replaced
a better
principles.
life.
It's not
You
about
guys
right
just
or wrong
have
anymore.
no idea
It's about winning
how
and losing.
difficult it
And that's
is
dangerous.
to immigrant.
Because
to
once
leave
you establish
everything
that your
know
side can
behind,
do
leave
anything
your
without
family, friends.
consequences,
Many of these
you've just
people are coming
normalized it
here
for
without
everyone,
speaking the
forever.
language. It is
So
just
yeah,
so
MAGA
incredibly
crowd,
difficult.
you
and I
wanted to
just
drain the
don't
swamp.
understand why
Turns
people
out you
just
just
have
filled
a
it with
lack of
different
empathy.
alligators.
Obviously, also
And these ones
extremely
have better branding.
ignorant because the process to immigrate to the U.S. is extremely complicated and expensive. And so if you are in poverty, if your life is at risk, yeah, walking to the U.S., crossing to the U.S. is less scary than your life in your country. It just makes me really, really sad. Like, oh, well, if they just do it legally, you obviously have never felt like your life has been in danger or you have no options. Because I've looked into having my husband immigrate to the U.S. It would be years and thousands of dollars. and he's married to a US citizen. So now imagine someone that doesn't have money, doesn't speak the language, they don't have a lot of options. So anyway, just asking for people to just see other people's point of view and have just a little bit more empathy.
The immigration conversation always comes down to empathy. She's right. People have zero problem with her immigrating to Chile to be with her husband. That's seen as legitimate, romantic even. But someone fleeing violence or poverty, suddenly that's not a real reason. And the just do it legally crowd has no idea what that actually means. Years of waiting, thousands of dollars, background checks that can be denied for basically any reason. And if you're fleeing immediate danger, too bad. Get in line. Here's the economic reality. Immigration grows economies. Immigrants start businesses at higher rates than native-born citizens. They pay into Social Security they'll never collect from. They take jobs that often can't be filled otherwise. But we've spent decades villainizing people for wanting what all of us would want in their situation. Safety, opportunity, a better life for their kids. You don't have to agree with open borders. But maybe start from a place of basic human dignity. These are people, not talking points. Act like it.
I recently posted a video talking about how undocumented immigrants pay taxes but do not receive any benefits like we do, because a lot of people right now think that the government shut down because Democrats want to just give healthcare to every undocumented immigrant. That is so false, and if you actually just knew how to use Google and type a few words, you could actually figure out all this information for yourself. So let's start by going down the list. They do not get any benefits even though they pay taxes. Hold on. They can pay taxes because in order to work in the United States, even if you're undocumented, you get an ITIN, which allows you to get paid. No. Hold on. I know that some people may use a fake Social Security number or something like that, but guess what? They're still paying taxes. They're still paying into these benefits with that fake Social Security number and still not receiving any of the benefits because it's fake and not actually tied to them. Okay, all right, hold on. What if they don't? What if they just get paid cash under the table? Oh, well, whoop-de-doo-dah. We're going to get to that and why it matters and why they actually would want an ITIN in order to work. All these pro-lifers, they really aren't super pro-life, because when it comes to a life-threatening emergency or childbirth, undocumented immigrants are actually eligible to receive emergency Medicaid, and this is only for the period of time until they are medically cleared to leave. Now, this comes back to why they would want an ITIN. It's because in order to get emergency Medicaid, you have to provide proof of income, proof of residency, and identification. So if you don't have an ITIN, you can't provide proof of income, because if you're getting paid under the table, you have nothing to prove. Now we have one more thing to cover, and that's Medi-Cal. That's available in California. So it is like Medicaid, but it's actually available to all undocumented immigrants. And you know why? I'm gonna tell you why, hold on. It is illegal to use federal funds to provide medical care to undocumented immigrants. However, California uses their state funds to cover those costs. So anyone that meets the low income requirements is allowed to receive health care with Medi-Cal. I'm sorry, I don't know why you guys are so upset about like people actually taking care of themselves and being healthy, but like
the immigrant taxes breakdown is perfect because this destroys the entire they don't contribute narrative in about 2 minutes. Undocumented immigrants pay billions in taxes annually: sales tax, property tax, through rent, payroll taxes. They're paying into systems they'll never benefit from. Medicare, they can't collect. Social Security, they'll never see. And the emergency Medicaid thing? That's just saying we won't let you die on the hospital floor. That's not a handout. That's basic humanity. But people hear immigrants getting benefits, and their brains shut off. They don't ask what benefits. They don't ask at what cost. They just get mad because someone told them to. Here's the truth. The fiscal impact of undocumented immigration is complicated, but it's not the crisis it's sold as. Most economists agree the net effect is neutral to slightly positive when you factor in all contributions and costs. So the next time someone's mad about immigrants, ask them to be specific. What exactly are they receiving that you're not? And more importantly, would you trade places with them?
Shouldn't have to be explaining this to all of you. You can use Google.
Dear MAGA cult, the FAFO is coming in fast and furious. Don't say we didn't warn you, but you didn't listen to us. Maybe you'll listen to one of your own.
All I can say, I was a dumbass, voted for Trump only because of my beliefs. People around me encouraged it. I can think for myself, yes. But I felt at the time that was the better choice. Now I'm looking at it with everything going on. It was the worst decision I ever made. You know, for now, me and my wife can afford things. And I know prices are going to go double on everything, if not triple. And we're still okay, I think. But what about the people that don't have the money? What about the people that could only afford what they could now? Now they ain't going to be able to afford that. What's going to happen with them? I don't like what I'm seeing at all, because I'm getting all these comments. But we're going to have to go through a little bit of pain. He's doing away with income tax, and we're going to have more money. Bullshit, you're going to have more money. And believe me, I don't usually cuss, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling pissed. But this is just a failure. Are we going to survive it? If he's still in there for 4 years? Hell no. Boy, I never thought I'd get this many views for being a dumbass, I guess. But I'd like to see him impeached. I really would. I don't know about you guys, but before it gets too deep, too far, too long, impeach his ass. That's what I say. I'm looking for a depression. Since Trump put all these tariffs in place, I voted for him. And now I'm beginning to wonder, are we even as a country going to be able to survive this?
First instinct was to feel pity for him. But then reality kicked in and I'm like, nah, he got what he voted for.
I need to flee the country. But then I'm like, but if I flee the country, where am I going to go? Because fascism is on the rise in Europe too. And then I'm like, my ancestors survived here and they made it work. But then I'm like, but the ancestors wanted better for me and they didn't have a choice but to stay, but I might have resources to leave. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe they will want me to leave. And then I'm like, do I have the money to leave? And I'm like, I certainly don't have the energy to fight. Oh my God, I can't fight nothing. I'm not built for that. But then I'm like, maybe I can just go to Canada because it's right there. And then I'm like, is that too close? That might be too close. And you see the far right rising in France and Germany and Italy. And then you start to really think to yourself, is there really a way to escape the tendrils of American imperialism? And maybe it's actually safer to be here than it is to leave. Because I don't want to be on the receiving end of the nukes, right? But I also don't want to be in the country that's shooting them. And then, of course, you start thinking, but if I do leave, do they like black people? You know what I mean? So I'm really confused. I'm really confused.
All for the MAGA rebranders.
People that they'll DM me and be like, you see what your boy's doing? You voted for this. I'm like, I voted for none of this. He's doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for. Yeah. I want him to stop the wars. He's funding them. I want him to shrink spending, reduce the budget.
People like Scholes, people like Joe Rogan are trying to do a soft rebrand where they're trying to step away from their involvement in the MAGA movement. No. They don't get to absolve themselves of what they voted for, of what they encourage. They voted for this. They need to stand on business and stand by all of the decisions, all of the fuck shit that he's been doing. I didn't know he was going to do this. He said exactly what the fuck he was going to do. And if you were too stupid not to pay attention, that's on you. But that doesn't get to let you walk away from this shit. People like them, people like Candace Owens and countless others, we're going to see them over the next few years try to move away from the MAGA movement and try to claim at some point, oh no, I never supported Donald Trump. I was never involved in any of the fuck shit that he did. No, you guys did this shit. You guys just are too fucking soft and have no actual morals or convictions that you can stand on. But no, you guys voted exactly for this shit. And I don't want to hear any sort of rewriting of history.
Okay. The MAGA regret compilations are something. First guy, I was a dumbass. At least he's honest. Respect for that. Second guy, he said exactly what he was going to do. Yep, Project 2025 wasn't a secret. Mass deportations weren't a secret. Tariffs weren't a secret. It was all right there. And now the rebrand begins. Rogan, Schultz, Owens. Watch them all try to distance themselves over the next few years. Oh, I never really supported all of that. No, we have receipts. We have videos, we have tweets. You don't get to cheer someone on, help them win, and then pretend you were always skeptical when the consequences hit. Here's the lesson. Words matter. Endorsements matter. Votes matter. And when you help put someone in power, you own what they do with it. So to everyone doing the shocked Pikachu face right now, where were you when people were literally warning you about this exact scenario? because we were here, shouting, and you called us hysterical.
You want to know what they're cutting now? Special education. The office that protects kids with disabilities. Gone. The Department of Education's Office of Special Education Programs, the one responsible for making sure children with autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, and other disabilities get the help that they need. They just had massive layoffs. These aren't just desk jobs. These are the people who enforce the law that guarantees every disabled child a free and appropriate public education. They handle the funding, the compliance, the oversight. The lifeline for parents already fighting an uphill battle every single day. And now, most of them are out of a job. Officials are saying that states can manage it themselves. Really? Most states are barely hanging on now. What happens when those funds stop flowing? When the aides, the speech therapists, and the adaptive tech all disappear because nobody's left to process the grants? You can't call yourself pro-family and then pull support from the kids who need it the most. You can't say you're protecting American families while you're actively destroying the one program that protects the most vulnerable. This isn't cutting red tape. It's cutting the safety net. Parents shouldn't have to beg for their kids to get what the law already promised them.
Last night, the Department of Education laid off almost every single staff member at the Office of Special Education. These staffers are the people that are responsible for distributing the funding for the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, okay? I am sick of getting on this app and saying I told you so, but I have been screaming I told you so since November. I have been telling people I am scared for my disabled child, okay? And I'm telling you guys all that you should be scared for you or your disabled loved ones, okay? This country is practicing eugenics. This will immediately affect children in public education in the United States. This will immediately affect some of the most vulnerable Americans from the party that claims to care about children. They are cutting staffers whose job is to enforce and distribute funds for IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. What y'all told me was safe. What y'all have been screaming from the rooftops. Anna, you're exaggerating. Anna, your child's fine. Anna, we don't have to worry. We have to worry. This is insane. Our children are in danger.
And we end with the cruelest cut of all. Special education. The program that helps kids with autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, the most vulnerable students in our system. They gutted it. Not reformed, not restructured, gutted. These parents are rightfully terrified. Because IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, is what guarantees their kids a free and appropriate public education. And the office responsible for enforcing it, decimated. Now they're saying states can handle it. You know what states are going to do? Cut corners. Reduce services. Tell parents we're doing our best while their kids fall further behind. This is eugenics light. It's deciding which kids are worth investing in and which aren't. And the party that claims to be pro-life and pro-family, they're the ones signing off on this. You can't claim to care about children while simultaneously pulling support from disabled kids. You can't say family values and then destroy programs that help families survive. So yeah, they told you what they were going to do, and now they're doing it. And if you voted for this, you own it.